Curran here. We run Linchpin Funnels. It's a full-service funnel building agency focused on the Linchpin marketing system by Russell Brunson. We talk about a lot of things on this podcast. We're a family-centric entrepreneur power couple who has ups and downs and lefts and rights and goes on vacations and comes back and all that kind of stuff. And today we're here to talk a little bit about basically taking care of yourself, investing in yourself, and what's good about it and what's bad if you don't do it, and all of that. So yeah, I think I'll let Alma take it from here, kick it off.
Yeah, cool. Hey, everyone. So this is a topic that has been kind of going through my head, and I wanted to share it with you and see what comes up for you during this time, right? It's really, it doesn't have to be me pushing my opinions on you, but I do want to hear what you think of it. And this topic is kind of controversial because we do hear words or phrases like self-care and investing in yourself, and we have kind of become immune to these terms. And I know for me, every time I hear about it, it's, oh, come on, like, really, can you come up with something better, something more, something novel, something I haven't heard of before, right? But at the same time, if it's something that continues to be mentioned, and if you're not doing it, if you're not kind of putting it on and trying it out and seeing how it fits you, you're always going to get frustrated by it, right? It's not going away. The busier we get, the more we seek success, and I like to call it maximizing myself. Like, the more we try to maximize ourselves, the more, the deeper into an environment we're going that actually promotes self-care and investment in self. So these terms are not going away. So something to think about when you hear it and don't apply it or get frustrated by it. So I'll just put that there for a moment here. And for me, I brought up something at our breakfast table this morning. For me, investing in myself or caring for myself has, like, I like to preach it to others. I've always loved sharing with others why it's so important. But it's almost like, yeah, it's so important, and that's why you should do it. But I can't because, right? And I think that's such a disempowered place to be in, because it calls you to really reflect on why can't you? Why should everybody else but you, right? What about you is so especially messed up that it isn't for you, right? Or what kind of a savior complex do you have that it isn't for you? It's like, oh, I'll take on all the burdens of the world so you don't have to. Which, like, I know that I've gone through a phase of that in my life, and it's such a bad place to be, because nobody asks you to take on the burdens of the world. Nobody even depends on you to take on the burdens of the world, and nobody even trusts you, because it's like, how can you handle it? Look at you, you're barely standing up, right? We don't want you to do that. We don't want to trust you with the burdens of the world, right? It's like, yeah, you live in your delusional world, and we're going to be over here taking care of this stuff, right? So it's really a disempowered place to be if you don't take time for yourself to really to really kind of reconnect with you and strengthen yourself, and so that the world will trust you, right? So that the world will actually be able to rely on you. And I know that, and I always speak from my personal experience. Like, I don't pin that on you or anybody else. It's just really from me, from my experience, and then somebody will resonate with it, right?
Well, I think everyone watching and listening will resonate with it. I think that you just identified something that a lot. I think that everyone is either in it now or was in it at some point. I don't think that you can be an entrepreneur, someone who's making an impact on the world, someone who is striving for more, without going through at least a phase, if not a season or an era of lack of self-care.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think it's kind of like a rite of passage to go through in order to become the person that does take care of themselves, that is responsible for themselves so that they can be responsible for others. You hear Jordan Peterson say things like, strengthen the individual. You strengthen the individual, and then you strengthen a family. You strengthen a family. You strengthen a neighborhood, which strengthens a town or a city, which strengthens a country. And that ground up individual personal responsibility approach, which is classically conservative, and it's got a lot of power. I think that it's got a lot of power for a reason. I think it's right. And
Yeah.
the insistence that something outside of us needs to be a certain way in order for us to feel a certain way is totally disempowering, and I've totally, just kind of echoing your vulnerability, I've fallen into this trap myself, where it's like there's so much work to be done. No one is going to do it. I can't take time for me. And ultimately what it comes down to is a lack of a false belief that I don't deserve to feel good, that somehow the needs and demands of others are more important than the care of myself. There's we can go into self-compassion too. There's a bunch of research that shows that self-compassion is actually super transformative to your mental and emotional well-being, and it's something that's been severely lacking in my upbringing, in my sort of maturity. But like without it, then you're kind of always beating yourself up, and then you're not fun to be around. You're not someone that anyone wants to. You feel like uh, you have to lift the weight of the world because you're always fighting yourself anyway, and you're fighting everyone else, and it's like this weird fight thing. And then yeah, nobody really wins. So
But what are you, and I'm going to tell you what I am, but what are you ultimately seeking when you are in that, as I often refer to it as martyr mode?
you're seeking love and care and attention,
Yeah, like
compassion.
look what I'm doing. Look what I'm
Would you
doing.
give me compassion
Would
now?
it?
I won't give it to myself
Mhm.
because I haven't developed that skill. I'm not responsible enough to take care of myself. So I'm going to give, so you'll take care of me
Maybe in hopes that you
in hopes that you'll take care of
right.
me. Right. Which ultimately comes back to like parent stuff. And
Exactly.
this isn't therapy.
And that's the only person or people that actually was responsible, whose duty that was.
Yeah.
To take care of you,
Yeah.
to give you connection,
Yeah.
love, and
Yeah.
that's compassion, right? That's it.
Right. So we kind of find ourselves, I mean, and please let me know if you resonate, but I'll speak for us. We find ourselves as adult lost children looking for people to take care of us, and seeking that care through striving, through sacrifice, through status, through material goods, through experiences. Even like I'm a big experience over things person, but the experiences are kind of like drugs that numb us out from feeling bad about ourselves too. So there's definitely some element of that, and it can all be thwarted or cured. The ailment is taking care of yourself. And it's something that, like, just full transparency, we're kind of in a season of it right now, the two of us. So we feel like it's our responsibility to talk about it, to be vulnerable, because we know that there's others that this resonates with. I know when I talk to clients, it's there, whether they're coupled or not. If they're not coupled, then there's that's kind of freaking them out, and they are worried about making an impact so that they can be desirable to others, so someone will take care of them. If they are coupled, there's especially if they're kind of partners in the business, there's a sort of back and forth, like who's got the ball, who's taking this seriously, who's responsible. It's like it's officially like a thing, I think, that needs to be talked about more. So
It's like a competition. You create this like competitive world in your own home, in your own marriage, in your business with your life partner. It's like
It's competition and no one wins.
exactly,
That's the crappy part.
exactly, yeah,
When you win, you lose.
exactly. Yeah, because since you mentioned Jordan Peterson, you know, like when he talks about how you can't win an argument w- against your spouse, you don't want to because you don't want to be with a defeated person. It's like, okay, you defeat your person now, so now what?
Congratulations.
Congratulations, now
Yeah.
you are a winner who is with a loser, right?
Yeah.
It's what have you won?
What did you win?
Really? Yeah,
Yeah.
and that is so true because you know, like I didn't grow up with both parents, so I don't really have personal experience what that's like. But even I grew up with my dads in our house every day. The mention of him and the talk of him, and how horrible he was, and how what a good thing it was that he was dead, and how so it was like, whoa, this guy, not only did he lose his life, but like he not only did we lose a parent, but he was always losing or winning. My mom was losing, and like then she was winning when he was dying. So he would like there was just so much loss, that there was so much competition, even with the sick man and the dead man. And it's like, and when we live to please, when we turn into that martyr, and I know that my parents both were martyrs, always striving to please, to get a piece of connection, to get a little bit of love, to get like something, as I call it, crumbs, to get something that they taught us to be that way too. And and when you don't take the time to actually reconnect with yourself, to give yourself the walk, the meal that your body deserves to have, right? The hug, the meditation session, the I don't know, grow some peppermint and smell it every once in a while. You know, some sort of a connection with yourself. When we don't take that time, everybody around us loses. Everybody, because we're teaching our children to be these martyrs. We're teaching our children to forget themselves. Right? It's and yes, we hear things like some pieces of wisdom, like from Gandhi. You know, what is the best way to end suffering is to lose yourself in service of others. And then we watch in our day modern heroes, if you will, like Alex Hormozy, who just say work, 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 right? And it's a so we're like, yeah, you can't really give time to yourself. You shouldn't be focusing on yourself. You should be working. You should be losing yourself in service of others. And all of that is true. There's a beautiful place for all of that. I am not against work. I am not against serving others. But the only way I can work and serve others is if I'm full, because you can only give what you have. That's it. If I'm miserable, I'm going to give you misery, right? If I'm full and happy and joyful, then I'm going to give you my fullness and happiness and joy. So it is the most important piece of being, is to fill your cup first, to give to yourself, to love yourself, to have compassion towards yourself, to get to know yourself, to connect with yourself. And only then will you be able to love others, right? Because again, you can only give what you have. If you don't have love towards you, then you don't have love to give. Period.
Which is like counterintuitive and maybe shocking. It's like, what do you mean? I love my partner. I'm working on myself, but I love my partner. Well, are you loving your partner?
Right.
You might love your partner, but are you loving them? Do you have love to give them?
And do you even know what love is? You know, if you like, I mean, I know I grew up in an environment where love, the activity of love, the acts of love, just weren't there. Everything I was given came with a price of sacrifice. It's like, I'm giving this to you because I've sacrificed so much, right? There was always like a price tag, a massive price tag added to it. And so like, so do you learn? Love is learned, right? The action of love is learned. So do you even know how to be in act of love?
Yeah.
And all of that comes from giving time to yourself. And I'm not talking about go on a retreat, which if you can afford it time wise, heck yeah, go on that beautiful retreat. But I'm talking about daily giving to yourself. Have fun if that's your thing. I don't know, go ziplining with your family. We haven't done it this year. No, not at all this year. Like go do something that makes you laugh, that awakens or reawakens that childlike activity, so that you don't have to go into childlike suffering, right? So it's, or I don't know, like I said, go to, I don't know, plant some flowers in your garden, do something that doesn't necessarily require a lot of work. And here's why it's almost like this is my show today, but like, here's why I think I'm very much verbal processor. So as I go, like I often don't know where I'm going to end.
Light bulbs come up as you talk.
The entire time. Oh, no, I forgot what I was trying to say.
Give it a sec.
It was really good too.
You were saying it doesn't need to require a lot of work.
Yes, thank you. And here's why, as I'm saying these things out loud, why do we withdraw or lean into suffering, right?
Because I was thinking about the same question. I'm glad to bring it up.
It doesn't require any work. It's just like, oh.
Well, okay. So what actually happens is we get triggered by something. There's fear of lack of money, or fear of lack of business, or fear of lack of connection, fear of something. Something triggers us. We have an automatic response, which puts us into fight or flight or flee. Our nervous system is dysregulated. From that place, we're not serving ourselves. We're trying to change the external environment so that we can feel good. That, I think, is that's my process anyway.
Right, but it's easy, right? You don't have to. It doesn't require you getting into a car. It doesn't require you building something. It doesn't require you talking to somebody. It just doesn't require any additional tools. You can just plop into it.
It's the easiest, most irresponsible thing you could possibly do. Absolutely, it's automatic. Mm-hmm. And the difference between those who have and those who don't is they have a space they create space between the trigger and the response, so that they're responsible to lead themselves in a way that is not chaotic, selfish, destructive.
Yeah. But I think that I think for someone who can resonate with this and who says, you know what, guys, I do actually find myself often plopping into that suffering mode, because it's easy. The brain doesn't want to work, right? The brain never wants to burn the calories.
Conserve energy.
Exactly. It doesn't want to. So we don't want to force the brain to do something, because it's always going to win. It's used to winning, right? And your subconscious mind has control over about 85% of your activities, and you only have that 15% control. So that the brain is always going to win. It just does. It's like 85 to 15. Like the odds are always in its favor.
I think that's generous. I've heard 90-10. So yeah.
Okay. So I don't. This is kind of what I say to some of our private clients. It's, we could spend the next 5 years in therapy-like environment and try to change that, or we can just lean into it, right? It's way easier, way more cost-effective. It's way more efficient. So if you are resonating with this and you're like, you know what, I do find myself plopping. Well, congratulations and kudos to you for admitting that, right? It already is that, so there's no use in fighting it. Just admit it. And we want to find some activities that taking care of yourself, that are just as easy, right? That don't require you getting into the car or building something or having the heavy conversations or whatever that is, right? It's like, find something that's just as easy. We're avid readers and we listen to a lot of audiobooks, and many of the personal development books, we have them on Audible and physical book, and sometimes also Kindle.
Oh yeah.
But it's something that's just as easy could be just hitting play on your audible, right? It's kind of as easy as plopping into
Yeah, true,
suffering,
true, true. Yeah.
or something just as easy as just stepping outside, just taking that step into your backyard, or whatever that is, something that grabbing, I don't know, we have eucalyptus here in the living on our living room table, just grabbing a eucalyptus leaf that you went to Trader Joe's and bought, it doesn't really require that much effort either. So just something that's super easy, that's just about as easy as plopping into suffering, because then you're interrupting that pattern, you're shifting gears, right? You're like, oh, this is easy, but so is this. So now I get to choose which easy I want to take. And then once this easy becomes a habit, for example, walking outside, walking into your backyard, then now from that place only can you say, what's almost just as easy as this? And that could be, I don't know, making a cup of tea, or having chlorophyll water that we like, or having your mushroom coffee, or something, that some of the things that we do throughout the day that remind us that we are taking care of ourselves. So just so it's like one step at a time, right? We don't want to go from, oh, it's so easy for me to plop into suffering mode, I'm gonna go train for a marathon. That's likely going to last for 3 days, maybe a week, and then it's gonna drop off because your brain is just not in that space. And it's forceful.
You like to use the term lurching. That would be lurching.
You'll be lurching, and it's like for 3, 5, 7 days it works. It's like, yeah, I'm doing it. And as soon as you start becoming that new person that's now training for a marathon, the brain's like, no, wait a minute, who the heck are you kidding? And that's not you. You are not a marathoner. What are you doing? You're too old, or you're too out of shape, or you got too much shit to do. Or it's just not.
What will they say?
Exactly. You're just not that person. So we really want to take that. First of all, admit that you do find yourself in a suffering mode often. Second, find something that's as easy to lean into as it is to plop into suffering.
For the dudes, get a heavy bag. Go do push-ups, do burpees. Like if the idea of chlorophyll water isn't resonating with you,
which it doesn't have to.
Right, it doesn't. The key is like to find something that's low friction, because ultimately what it comes down to is it's just a habit. Suffering is a habit. You picked it up as a kid because it benefited you, because it got you attention or whatever, and you have a well-worn path in your brain with it. You know how to do this. It's worked in the past. What has worked gets stored and is our automatic response. You need to create a new response. You create a new response by doing something else many, 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 many times. Repetition is the mother of skill, as Tony says. You're creating new associations in your mind that will, over time, here's where faith comes into play, consistency. Over time, will create the space where you can have a response rather than a reaction, which gives you the opportunity to take care of yourself. For a long time, I believed and would straight up say, like, I can't control my thoughts. I can't control my responses. I truly believed this. I now know that I was wrong. I know that I was wrong because I now have a different experience. I don't know if it's more than 50% now, but it's if not, it's getting close to it, where I have space in between when something comes up and my response of it. And even if I get fully overwhelmed and triggered and I'm in a full-on dysregulated state, I now have enough experience with self-soothing and self-care and self-compassion that I can be a different person than I was before. I can show up differently. It's like I can show up for myself, which lets me show up for everyone else and not dump all my crap all over the place like a toddler with a dirty diaper and no other clothes on in a toy room, just kind of flailing. And without these practices, that's how we show up. That's how I showed up anyway. Like, I don't want to project this out to anyone else, but I do think a lot of people will resonate with this. So yeah, that's if chlorophyll water isn't your thing, if eucalyptus isn't your thing, those are great things because they do show self-care. There's an intention, there's a ritual there, right? But if you're not there yet, or if that doesn't resonate with you, go punch something to let the anger out. Go.
I know, punch a pillow for all.
Yeah,
I mean,
punch
it
a
really
yeah,
doesn't matter.
yeah. Find a place and just yell. Like
Yeah.
those are okay responses, because ultimately we're releasing the energy that's been put into our body from when we were children that has not yet been worked through. So there's this book by Pete Walker called The Tao of Fully Feeling, and in it he talks about the fact that when feelings come up, we should actually feel them, and that doing so is an act of like trauma release in a way, where it's like you don't have to go to therapy, you don't have to have some deep crazy session. You can just feel the feeling, give it a few seconds, and then it can kind of dissipate. And what that gives you is power. So that's another thing that's been really good for me. It gives you power, gives you confidence, gives you certainty, but also like gives you a sense of progress, because like every time I do this, I'm releasing a little bit more of the burdens from the past. And I get a little bit more. They're like micro, minute, super tiny bits of progress, but they're tangible and they're cumulative. So that is and that's one of the most pure forms of self-care that I can ever imagine, is just being there with yourself when you're having a hard time.
Yeah, and it also gives you confidence that
Oh yeah.
that the next time you feel it, you're gonna get out of it by going through it, right?
And being there for yourself, and knowing that you're not going to die, and knowing that no one's going to leave you, and knowing that all these catastrophic potentialities are totally made up. They don't exist. They're not coming. You're going to be fine.
And they're gonna be coming if you continue to believe it and act towards it.
Oh, you invite it. You create it.
Right.
What you focus on, you get more of.
Exactly. And I don't, and we don't necessarily mean that only like energetically, but it's really, when you, if I see that chair and I really want to go towards that chair, I'm going to eventually, if all I'm thinking about is this chair, eventually I'm going to decide, you know what, I got to go sit in that
You'll
chair.
find yourself in
right?
the chair.
And I'll find myself walking towards. It's not like I'm energetically going to pull the chair towards me. It's that I'm going to walk towards that chair. And that's what it is. So so that catastrophe that you're so worried about, myself personally speaking, to me, is eventually going to happen because I'm going to go to it. I'm going to carve the pathways to go into that catastrophe, and and all of that is a possibility if I don't just take care of myself, if I don't carve out some time and take care of me, and start kind of treating me with respect, right? Like, yeah, I respect you enough to give you whatever it is that you're seeking, right? I respect you enough to give you water, to take a walk, to go take a few deep breaths, to sit down and feel the feelings, to do all these things, because it's with all of these things, again, to kind of wrap it up and go back to the beginning, we end up being a lot more pleasant to be around, and people actually want to be around us.
That's true fucking magnetism.
Yeah.
When you can be the person in the room with the depth of presence and consciousness that you can be with anything, any energy, any emotion, that's attractive. That's power. That's what you want to be. People want to be around someone who is not pulled around by their emotions, someone who is going to be reliable. Like, this gets super freaking primal, tribal. Like this is real deal human stuff. When you're one who isn't pulled around internally or externally, you attract followers, you attract your congregation, you increase the trust, and it's a game changer.
Yes, absolutely. And it's something, again, we always pretty much talk about what we have experienced ourselves, and and I like these conversations on Thursday mornings because we know the topic, but we don't necessarily know where we're going to take the topic and how it's going to end up uh, shouting out. But
This has been kind of a therapy session for us, to be honest. It's been good. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, yeah. But when we think about the responsibility that you mentioned and being able to do this stuff to really take care of yourself, to be that leader, there's the questions like, am I responsible enough to be that leader? Am I do I want to be a leader or do I want to be a follower? Right? It's like, where is my place in this world? And very often, sure, most of us do want to be leaders, especially our audience that we're speaking with or to, but um but we were brought up to be followers. We were brought up by followers to be followers.
We were beaten into conformity
Yeah,
to ensure we
yeah,
wouldn't stick out, because leaders
yeah.
stick out.
Because I know for me, it's like it's a most of my childhood. My last name of origin was like, it was bad. It was bad mouthed. It was like, oh, like it was embarrassing that's where I was off, but I was off. It was like, oh, these people, they have bad attitude. They're bad people. They're liars and cheats and this. So that was bad. And then during the war, I was wrong for having been born a Muslim, for having been born in a specific city. It was wrong because you literally get killed for that and locked up in a camp, and so you better not stand out. Who the hell are you to be a leader? You being a leader is a joke. Like, you don't belong in the leadership position because of your background and your religion and none of the stuff that you chose, right? And uh and then having been in Germany and being consistently reminded that I was a refugee, like to, that you don't even have cash to pay anything with. We had those kind of food stamps, and
You couldn't have cash.
couldn't have cash. So like everywhere you're shopping for groceries, and like everybody behind you in front of you knows that you're paying with this refugee money, So you're already subhuman, and then I came to America, and it's like everything I had to say was, people would just be like, oh, okay, okay. Where are you from? You have an accent. So that was kind of like, there's always this thing of separation. It's a constant reminder that all the things that I may have dreamt of, they just weren't for me because I was of this lower class, of this separate group of people that just couldn't be that, couldn't step into that leadership position. And I was telling my family this morning, and all I ever really did was to assimilate so that I could actually step into a leadership position. But I was by that consistent simulation, there's a consistent urge to be the same as everybody else. I would learn every language I've ever, if I lived in Germany or in America, I was like, I would learn that language so fast and I would do really well. I would work really hard and read all the books so that I could lose my accent. And I still couldn't lose the accent because even now, 23 years later, people are still like, oh, you have an accent. It's like, I just want to be the same as everybody else. And so what I actually learned to do is to put myself down, right? People stopped putting me down. The war has been over for decades now. Like, I have left that neighborhood. Nobody really cares about my religion. Like, but I'm the one who's constantly trying to become someone else and separating myself from those versions of me. So they've stopped, but I have continued. And that has been a big revelation for myself. Um, and I wouldn't have gotten there had I not given myself that time. And I would have gotten there a lot sooner had I given myself the time. So that's kind of, for me, like, as I wrap up my venting here, like, it's so essential. It's as important as eating. You can go without it for a while, but it is important. Your body needs the nutrients. So same thing here. You can go without it for a while, but you need this. You need that time to yourself.
So let's make some let's give ourselves some time. How do you want to give yourself time?
Today,
Starting today, yeah.
yeah. Well, you and I are doing good at like doing some things. We meditate in the morning, and then we like prepare for the day.
Dr.
And
Joe. Dr.
Dr. Joe
Joe.
Dispenza, yeah. And I like to play a lot, so I'm always now that Ella is on summer break, I'm always like, let's go play, let's go do something fun. And but and and we work out every day. That's a big commitment that we have made to ourselves and the family. Uh, but really, outside of that, it's just that special, I don't know, 30 minutes with no phone, no people, no obligations, just kind of taking a walk. For me, I love to move. Moving is very important to me. So taking a walk, and maybe because that's part of my background, now I'm reinviting it. Where I'm from, afternoon walks are a thing. They're like, I don't know, going grocery shopping on a Saturday, taking a walk in the afternoon is just a thing that you do. It's part of your daily routine, regardless of how old you are or what you do for a living. If you, I don't know how it is today, but back in the 80s and 90s, whether you're in Bosnia or Germany, like I was walking in the afternoon. That's like kind of like having rush hour traffic in Tampa,
What
Florida.
time? What time do they go?
Like after dinner, it's usually like a after dinner event.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if it's a family that eats late, which Europeans do have a tendency to eat late, then it's
Especially
kind of like,
Italians.
yeah, it's like maybe, I don't know what time.
Evening.
Let's say 5 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not late.
No.
No. Maybe 7.
No, I'd say like if those, yeah, okay, sure.
And it's so like formalized. At least I've only been there, I think, once to do this, but in Alma's hometown, they have this thing where they actually will block off the downtown street and make it pedestrian only. And everyone's out walking and looking good. It's a place to see people and be seen. It's like, yeah, it's like the community kind of. It doesn't matter what you did that day. You're gonna go see each other and commune.
Absolutely, because your town is part of your life. You have your home, you have your backyard, you have your neighborhood, but the downtown is part of your daily life. It's the town that you live in. It's where you are, yeah, living. And that was one of the things that I couldn't assimilate, and I tried, but it's like, James and I lived in a uh, Florida is such a beautiful place. It's such a great vacation spot. I mean, James was born there. I lived most of my life there. Ella was born there. So it's like, that's home for all of us, kind of thing. That's where we're from. And it's so unwalkable. Unless you're in downtown or on the beach, it's really hard to get from one place to another. It's so flat and wide, so it's spread out, so it's really, you need a car. Right now we only have one car because we both work from home and work together, and we have no need for a second car. But over there, if you have two grown-ups in a household, you need two cars.
It's a must for sure.
Especially because typically people work in different directions, right?
Yeah.
So it was we only have one friend couple in Florida who have one car, and that was really surprising to me. It's like, whoa, wow, how come you have one car? Dimensions.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it's just really, unless you take your car and park it in downtown garage, like you just don't, it's not a very walkable area. Where in Europe, you just don't need a car. You just don't have to have it, like many people who, let's say, live and work in Germany, but they often go to Bosnia to visit their family, or Slovenia, or Korea, or whatever, because you can just do that throughout Europe. They have cars, but other than that, you really don't need it. It's like a silly expense. It's probably as in like New Yorkers probably feel the same way, or people who live in Tokyo. It's like, well, why would you want to have a car? But yeah, that was a big thing where it was like, wow, you just don't walk unless you go to downtown or to the beach, which with your work schedule and your school schedule and whatever, like you don't really do that often. You do that maybe twice a month if you're that outgoing, but you very seldomly do that. And here we're definitely in town a lot more often, and going to downtown has become not fully not the same as Europeans, people who live in Europe, but it has definitely become at least once a week,
Yeah.
if not more.
And yeah, I want it to be more. So that's a great commitment. But like even the days that it doesn't happen, we can walk here. We can walk down to the river.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's do that. So for your kind of self-care, connecting with the family at the walk after dinner.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like it would have to be, because we are, this is another thing maybe for a different topic, different days.
Let's do another episode right now.
But it's for us, our day, which is really something that we had a breakthrough in our family last night. Like our work day just kind of goes into 6 p.m., 7 p.m.
12:30 in the morning.
Yeah. So it's just, and
which is a lack of responsibility. It's not a badge of honor.
Exactly. Yeah. But there's a part of you that really wants that badge. It's like you.
Oh, 100%.
Wants to be like, oh, babe, I saw you worked until 12:30 this morning. Oh, I'm so sorry you had to work that hard. Right?
Absolutely.
It's commendable. It's like, yeah, you did it. Push through. It's
hard work is good. Nothing gets done without hard work. But it can be an escape to or a seeking of attention that you're not giving to yourself is the point. And that's definitely been true for me. Full disclosure.
Yeah. So our commitment is to be done. So let's say 7 p.m. for us.
Go for a walk at 7.
Go for a walk at 7.
Yeah.
When winter comes around, we'll move that up to earlier in the day because 7 o'clock is
dark.
There's
bears.
Yeah, there are bears. Sure. But for now, while we still have a decent amount of light, obviously 7 o'clock is our little walk to downtown, to the river, or through downtown to the river.
Even we'll go into River Arts District.
Exactly. And we'll shift it in the fall. And we want to know, what's your commitment? What's your time for yourself that you are going to take? Let us know.
Does this message resonate with you? And for those who are just joined, a bunch of people are just joining.
I know.
The topic has been self-care might make you want to vomit, but it's essential. And working is super laudable, and nothing is done without it, but it's also an escape sometimes and preventing you from taking care of yourself. So with the assumption that self-care is necessary, what will you do to take care of yourself?
Yeah. And just for those, because I know that we have a decent amount of our audience and our people in our groups who don't have kids yet. If you don't, but you are planning or think it's a possibility, again, I'm not against the whole Gandhi, the best way to end suffering is to find yourself in service of others, to lose yourself in service of others, or Alex Ramodzi's work. Please know, I am not against that. There's a place for both of those, but they're only possible when you give to yourself. So if there's both of those messages are really kind of almost easier for someone without the responsibility of children, because you're not leading any little people, you're like only by yourself, so you can drag yourself into the ground without worrying about someone else watching, little person. But if you're but you're gonna take that, whatever work ethic you have, whatever self opinion or self respect or lack of you have now, you're going to take the same thing into your childbearing, child raising era. So I wouldn't let you off the hook yet. Is what I'm
Do the transformation now. Yeah, we talked about that last night in Men's Circle. Literally, this one of the guys is 38. He's got no kids, and he thinks within the next 2 years he'll have kids. And he's got these things he's got to work on. He's inconsistent with the sleep, and he feels guilty and all that stuff. And our sort of group leader is like, dude, take care of that stuff now. There's your pressure. There's your motivation, because it's going to, exactly what you said. It'll carry through, and it'll be a lot harder to wrangle.
Because that's what we did.
Yeah.
We carried it through. We just added a beautiful little girl into our world, and we're like, oh, we have this and that, right? But it's way better to do it before. You'll have less baggage to take into this beautiful new lifestyle that you're creating. Yeah. Okay.
Love y'all. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.